United States offers NATO-style security guarantees to Ukraine as talks with European and Ukrainian officials show progress towards ending the war. US envoys warn that the offer is time-limited with no agreement yet on territorial concessions. Philippine immigration says the father and son behind Australia's deadly Bondi Beach attack spent most of November in the country. Officials say the father entered the Philippines as an Indian national before returning to Australia. Los Angeles police charged the son of filmmaker Rob Reiner with the murder of his parents after they are found dead at their home. Authorities say the 32-year-old suspect is in custody without bail as the investigation continues. President Donald Trump sues the BBC for defamation over edited footage of a January the 6th speech that he says represents his words. Trump seeks up to $10 billion in damages after the BBC admits an editing error but denies any legal basis for the claim. The US military says it carries out strikes on 3 vessels in international waters in the Eastern Pacific, killing 8 people. US Southern Command says intelligence shows the boats are operating along known narco-trafficking routes. The M23 armed group says it will withdraw from the strategic city of Uvira in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, following a request from US mediators. The announcement comes days after the Rwanda-backed militia seized the city, casting doubt on a recently signed peace deal. Appeals judges at the International Criminal Court reject an Israeli challenge to the court's investigation into the Gaza war. The judges rule the prosecution may examine alleged crimes following the October the 7th Hamas attack on Israel. Police renew a manhunt for the gunman who kills 2 students and injures 7 others in a classroom shooting at Brown University. Officers go door-to-door for surveillance footage after releasing a person of interest previously detained. We start this hour in Australia, and authorities in the Philippines say the father among the alleged Bondi Beach attackers entered the country last month as an Indian national, as investigators continue tracing the suspect's movements. Immigration officials say Sajid Akram and his son Naveed arrived in the Philippines on November the 1st from Sydney, listing Davao as their final destination before leaving the country on November the 28th and returning to Australia. Australian officials say the attack at a Jewish celebration in Sydney, which killed 15 people, was motivated by Islamic State ideology. 2 Islamic State flags were later found in the suspect's vehicle. Meanwhile, the UK Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mevis has said a close relative and his wife hid under a footstand for 15 minutes during the shooting at Bondi Beach. Let's take a listen in to his statements.
10-year-old girl who was murdered in cold blood, celebrating Hanukkah. Just last night, my wife got in touch with a cousin of mine living in Sydney and his wife, just to check in, how are you doing? To hear from them that they were at the event and for 15 terrifying minutes, they were hiding underneath a donut stand as people to their right and their left were being mowed down in cold blood. They were amongst the fortunate ones. The number of fatalities is now up to 15. We feared the number could rise, 40 seriously.
Joining us now for this discussion is Shruti Dasgupta. She's an international affairs expert and she joins us live from New Delhi. Shruti, thank you very much for joining us. The father, who is now deceased in this case, entered the Philippines as an Indian national and then returned to Australia weeks later. From a security standpoint, what does this short-term multi-country travel you typically signal in a case like this?
Well, as for the Indian identity part, a lot of Pakistanis, even Bangladeshis, dawn on the Indian identity when they are traveling overseas because it makes things easier for them with authorities. We have street interviews of so many Pakistanis, including their restaurants and businesses, calling themselves Indians because it makes footfall. Be higher in number because Pakistanis and Bangladeshis are not as looked at as that secure an identity, and so donning on the Indian hat is a very normal thing for these people. So let's put that Indian identity question to the corner. It's basically they were Indian probably about 100 years ago. So that's how they kind of justify donning on that identity and identifying themselves as the same to authorities that I'm an Indian descent as such. So that is something that I'm not very shocked at. It's very normal for Pakistanis and Bangladeshis to do this. So if I move beyond that, they've gone to Philippines, which is a big headquarters for ISIL or ISEA, which they call is that Southeast Asian faction of Islamic State. And 8 years ago, the Philippine government had done this giant war against terrorism because one of those groups had held the city for at ransom literally for 5 months. So they had cleaned out at that particular time the Islamic State ideology. At least the big figureheads, the key operatives were all out. But what they had left behind were fractured groups that were still there and operating. So in 2023, we had the news of a Catholic mass being disrupted by Islamic State ideology attacks again. So they are still there, but not in that level where they would be, where they can hold cities at ransom. They're trying, the government has tried relocation programs, they've tried reintegration programs, and people do get tired and exhausted and disillusioned by the Islamic State ideology, but until they do, they are a threat. So this father and son of Pakistani origin, father being Pakistani origin, and son of course being Australian born, but you see the cultural identity that they carry with them is the Pakistani identity, which is very, very hardliner and fundamentalist in their nature when they tend to be so. The son, I believe, from what the news reports are saying, was also under investigation in 2019. So he was investigated for 6 months because he had some links with, dubious organizations linked to ISIL. And after 6 months, they found that maybe not as much. We have videos of the son being very, very pro-Islam, pro-Dawa. Dawa is the invitation to convert, and which is one of the way they kind of go speak to a lot of people and try and pressurize them into abandoning their own chosen faith or the faith of their birth and picking Islam as their faith. So this particular boy was already tagged like that. The Australian converted, as in the naturalized Australian father, wanted arms, but he was not given arms for a long time. They were both investigated. And after a long investigation in 2023, he was issued the license, and then he had the access to guns. So when they went to Philippines for a 28-day trip to Davao, which is known to be a hotbed for places where they convert ideology into action in terms of Islamic State, people should watch out. This is where it happens all the time. And although I'm sure the Australian authorities did their best, you cannot catch every one of them. It just takes one to actually cause this kind of mayhem. But if it was somebody who was already under investigation, maybe an arms license was not a good idea.
Shruti, however, what a lot of reports are saying that these IS flags were homemade. Of course, we take into account that Philippines visit as well. Does this discovery of these flags, this Philippine visit, necessarily mean a command and controlled attack by IS, for example? Or is this more consistent with inspirational terrorism?
It is more inspirational rather than being handled from abroad. They might have people inspiring them, egging them, reaffirming their beliefs, reaffirming their cause to cause harm to other humans just because they do not be of the same faith or they have a particular grudge against a particular faith. So they were probably being coached, but not handled, I think, because that would mean that there was a direct connect and a direct somebody else guiding the bullets that were fired. I would rather think this is a one-off incident where somebody got hold of some people were able to actuate into action their feelings and their hate against a particular community, just because they were given that kind of encouragement from a set of people who absolutely believe in this kind of phobia.
Yes, Shruti Dasgupta, do stay with us. We'll, of course, here on NewsX World, bring you all the updates in regards to that ongoing situation in Australia. Okay, now we move on and over to the United Kingdom, and President Donald Trump has sued the British Broadcasting Corporation, otherwise known as the BBC, for defamation over edited clips of a speech that made it appear he directed supporters to storm the US Capitol. Trump, in his lawsuit, said the BBC, despite its apology, had made no showing of actual remorse for its wrongdoing nor meaningful institutional changes to prevent future journalistic abuses. He is seeking up to $10 billion in damages. The BBC has apologized to Trump, admitted an error of judgment, and acknowledged that the edit gave the mistaken impression that he had made a direct call for violent action, but it has said there is no legal basis to sue. We're once again joined by Shruti Dasgupta. Shruti, the BBC, of course, apologised for this error. Many of its top figures resigned. Donald Trump, however, says this isn't enough and is going for $10 billion in reparations for this accident by the BBC. What are your thoughts on it? Is there any legal standing there?
Well, he has $5 billion taken on as defamation, and the other $5 billion is for alleged violation of a Florida act for unfair trade practices and unfair deception and unfair trade practices. So that $5 billion has no foot to stand on, because neither was the document made aired in USA, and it was only aired once, and once the error was reported or called out, it was taken off air, and there have been apologies formally issued and as well as personally issued, and they have also had a heads roll in terms of people being asked to resign and not take up their position. So there is a direct consequence of presenting a fake narrative to the public. Now, so that $5 billion has no foot to stand on. For the defamation part, again, it is liable in UK and not in USA. So that is a fight that Trump will have to take to UK. He's had cases against so many platforms. I think, if I'm not wrong, he settled with Meta. He's settled with ABC News. He settled with
CBS
News. And there's so many suits that he's been filing left, right, and center and winning. So there is definitely cause that they might want to give some money for the defamation bit in UK and kind of bury the hatchet. But if push comes to shove, then definitely UK has taken a stance of defending the BBC, because any kind of reparations will come out of the public funds, which are directly taken from the UK public.
Yeah, and what you were referencing previously is the CBS, and they of course, the CBS interview with then Vice President Kamala Harris, who didn't apologise, but eventually then had to pay a $16 million settlement to Donald Trump. Of course, the British broadcast standards are much stricter than the United States. And the BBC says there's no legal basis for this suit. Are they going to be relying more on UK press law now?
Yes, of course, because it was aired in UK. It was not aired in USA. So they are going to rely on it. But I do know that I have a feeling that they would go for settlement, because they know that giving a settlement money a small amount, even if it is just a compensatory amount, not the whole 5 billion, would be enough of a victory for Trump without actually losing on the strategic partnership that they have with UK as of now. So instead of having bad blood between the two nations and a lot of hoopla about this particular case, a small amount of reparations given to Trump would make him happy, would make him feel the victory that he likes to have over people who have tried to malign him. So I do hope that it fails with just that much, or we'll see a media circus around it while UK uses its own laws to justify free speech as how they do it. Of course, that is another joke for a conversation for another day. Free speech in UK is not as free as we would like to believe.
Shruti Dasgupta, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. It's a pleasure to have you on. We now move on over to the Gulf, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has met with Jordan's King Abdullah II, with the two leaders having held bilateral talks to mark 75 years of their diplomatic relations. Prime Minister Modi has said the two countries share a common and clear stance against terrorism. He has also praised King Abdullah II's active and positive role on the Gaza issue. Meanwhile, King Abdullah has highlighted the friendship, mutual respect and productive cooperation between the two countries. Let's take a listen in.
Your presence here carries deep significance, as you mentioned earlier on, because our countries will mark 75 years of diplomatic relations. And I believe that this visit reflects decades of friendship, mutual respect and productive cooperation between our two nations. Our nations enjoy a strong partnership and a shared desire to advance prosperity for our peoples. And over the years, our collaboration has expanded across multiple sectors. Your visit today provides an important opportunity to chart new paths of economic cooperation across industry, ICT, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, energy, and many more promising fields of mutual benefits for our people. We warmly welcome the signing of the agreements and MOUs during your visit, as they will further advance our cooperation and open new avenues for collaboration.
Meanwhile, India and Jordan have signed 5 key agreements to strengthen bilateral ties. The deals cover renewable energy, water resource development and management, and the conservation of Petra and Ellora states. A cultural exchange program for 2025 to 2029 was also signed, along with a digital project agreement to boost technological cooperation. These agreements aim to deepen collaboration across culture, heritage, technology and sustainability. Joining us now is Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, a former diplomat joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India and Jordan share a common and clear stance against terrorism. What in practicality does that mean? Intelligence sharing or defence cooperation or something else?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. You know, Jordan is a stable and moderate voice in a volatile Middle East region. And that makes it a crucial partner for India's engagement in West Asia. Both nations share concerns about terrorism and cooperate on counter-terrorism efforts, as happened during this visit and has been happening for quite some time. There have been high-level discussions and agreements on defense and security cooperation. Now, the discussions between Prime Minister Modi and King Abdullah II covered the issues of counter-terrorism, extremism and radicalization, which Prime Minister Modi and King Jordan both consider as very important. Prime Minister Modi praised Jordan's leadership in this area. Jordan also has consistently supported India's bid for a permanent seat in the expanded UN Security Council. And Jordan was very forthright in condemning the terror attack which took place earlier this year in Pahalgam. So there is a lot of scope for cooperation between the two countries in this very important area which you mentioned.
Ambassador Prabhu Dayal, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but thank you for taking the time. We have breaking news coming in from that same development. And in a remarkable gesture, Jordan's Crown Prince Al Hussein bin Abdullah II personally drove Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Jordan Museum. The Crown Prince is the 42nd generation direct descendant of Prophet Muhammad. The visit highlights the warm ties between Jordan and India and underscores the importance of cultural and diplomatic engagement. We'll continue to bring you information coming out of that visit by Prime Minister Modi as soon as it comes. We move over to Africa next, and the M23 armed group has agreed to a US request to withdraw from the strategic city of Uvira in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The Rwanda-backed group seized the city last week shortly after a peace deal was signed by the Congolese and Rwandan governments in Washington. The withdrawal aims to ease regional tensions and prevent the peace deal from collapsing, amid fears the advance could trigger a wider conflict. Joining us now is Dr. Charles Okay, this is an ongoing war, of course, between the M23 rebels and the Democratic Republic of Congo army. The M23 rebels have seized territories across the east. Now they have aiming for the south, where just a couple of days ago they seized the city of Uvira. Previously, there had been a peace deal. Negotiated between the United States and between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, which DRC claims backs the rebels. The seizure of Uvira, the United States saw this as violating that peace deal. We're now joined by Dr. Charles Sinkala, an international relations expert, joining us live from Johannesburg. Thank you very much for joining us. What's your analysis on this development? The United States, of course, putting out extremely strong comments just a day ago when Uvira was seized by the M23, blocking off that border with Burundi and shattering hopes of a peace deal. Well, we thought they were getting shattered. What's your reading of this development that M23 rebels have actually agreed to pull out of that city?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Well, it's evident that the peace accord, which was signed in the United States of America, was not the real problem that they were solving. I've always had the feeling and understand that Rwanda are not the M23 who's fueled in the southern Congo and the eastern Congo of DRC, as the fight has been always capacitated by private and military security companies that are harvesting minerals in DRC.
Carla, I'm so sorry we have run out of time this hour, but thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you. We now move on to Latin America, and the Chilean government has delivered a formal note to Colombia's ambassador in Santiago following the remarks by the Colombian President Gustavo Petro on Chile's presidential elections. Chile's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Alberto Van Claveran, has said that they not only denigrate the president-elect, but also the sovereign decision of the Chilean people and the democratic strength of Chile's institutions. Let's listen in to what Alberto Van Claveran had to say.
Pública, hemos entregado una nota de protesta al embajador de Colombia en Chile para manifestar nuestra molestia por los inaceptables dichos del presidente de Colombia respecto de la elección presidencial en nuestro país. Sus declaraciones constituyen una falta de respeto y una intromisión impropia en asuntos de política interna, y no solo denostan al presidente electo, sino a la decisión soberana del pueblo de Chile y a la solidez democrática de nuestras instituciones.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has urged progressive movements across Latin America to reflect on the recent election of the right-wing president-elect Jose Antonio Cast in Chile, while reaffirming confidence that Mexico would not follow a similar path. Let's listen in to what she said.
Bueno, hay que analizar cada país. Evidentemente nosotros queremos que haya más gobiernos cercanos al pueblo, pero que siempre se decida de manera democrática. En el caso de Chile fue una votación democrática, eligió el pueblo de Chile quien quiere que lo gobierne. Creo que es un momento de reflexión para los movimientos progresistas en América Latina de por qué se dan estas circunstancias.
Now we move over to the United States, and the government has launched a new campaign to hire 1,000 engineers for short-term federal roles, with a focus on artificial intelligence and advanced technology skills. Officials say the two-year positions will place engineers inside government agencies to work on specific projects, including building digital platforms tied to new federal programs. The first round of hires is expected to be completed by the end of March. The initiative is part of the Trump administration's broader push to strengthen artificial intelligence capabilities across the government, with roles focused on software engineering, cybersecurity and data analytics. Officials say the program aims to attract experienced private sector talent to tackle complex technical challenges. Several major technology companies have said they will consider hiring participants once they complete the program. Well, that's all that we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more international updates.